My partner drew his gun on me and said, "Sorry, Frank, but I've been working for them since day one." The words hung in the humid Mexican air, like smoke from a recently fired weapon. Agent Steve Nakamura stood across from me in Eduardo Vasquez's opulent villa, his service weapon trained on my chest, while cartel sicarios flanked the doorways with assault rifles. 3 years of undercover work with the Sinaloa organization, 3 years of believing Steve had my back, and now his finger was on the trigger of my execution. The meeting had been routine until 30 seconds ago. Eduardo discussing his $100 million fentanyl pipeline into Los Angeles, routes through Tijuana that would flood American streets with death disguised as pain relief. Steve and I were supposed to be securing the DEA's biggest bust in agency history. Instead, I was staring down the barrel of betrayal. "Steve, what the hell are you doing?" I kept my voice steady while calculating distances to cover. 20 feet to the marble staircase, 15 to the kitchen, 30 to the bulletproof Mercedes in the circular drive. None of those numbers mattered with 4 automatic weapons pointed at my center mass. Eduardo laughed from behind his mahogany desk, gold teeth catching the chandelier light. "Agent Frank Castellanos. Meet Agent Steve Nakamura. He's been keeping me informed of DEA operations for 36 months. Every raid you thought was intelligence failure, every shipment that disappeared before your teams arrived, Steve made sure we stayed profitable. The villa's air conditioning couldn't touch the cold spreading through my veins. Steve had recruited me for this operation, vouched for my undercover credentials, coordinated every aspect of our infiltration. If he was compromised, then everything we'd accomplished was orchestrated theater designed to protect cartel operations. "Maria and Sofia are safe," Steve said, his weapon never wavering. "As long as you cooperate with the transition. Your family doesn't have to suffer for your idealism, Frank. My wife and daughter." Steve knew their schedules, their vulnerabilities, their exact location at this moment. The threat wasn't subtle, and it wasn't empty. Cartel justice extended to families, especially families of federal agents who posed ongoing threats to business operations. "What transition?" I asked, though part of me already understood the answer. The villa around us wasn't just a meeting location. It was an execution chamber where inconvenient DEA agents disappeared permanently. Eduardo stood up, revealing the compact submachine gun mounted under his desk. "Agent Castellanos, you've been investigating our organization for 3 years. You know names, routes, financial networks, operational details that could damage our business significantly if shared with prosecutors. The transition involves you joining our organization permanently, or you joining the others who refused similar offers." He gestured toward a wall lined with photographs I hadn't noticed before. 12 faces I recognized as DEA agents who died during undercover operations over the past 5 years. Steve had been eliminating federal agents systematically, using his position to identify and murder colleagues who posed threats to cartel interests. The scope of his betrayal wasn't just personal, it was institutional genocide designed to protect criminal operations worth billions of dollars annually. "How long, Steve?" I needed to understand the depth of his corruption while looking for opportunities to survive the next few minutes. "How long have you been selling out American law enforcement?" "Since before I met you, Frank. Since before I joined DEA. This was always the mission." His expression showed no regret, no conflict, just professional detachment. "Russian intelligence recruited me during college, trained me for deep infiltration of American drug enforcement. The cartels pay better than Moscow, but the objectives remain aligned. Russian intelligence. The cartel connection was just surface-level covering for foreign espionage operations designed to weaken American drug enforcement capabilities. Steve wasn't just a corrupt agent, he was an enemy spy who'd spent years systematically destroying DEA effectiveness from within. The villa's windows exploded inward as flashbang grenades detonated throughout the ground floor. Smoke and chaos filled the room while tactical teams breached from multiple entry points. But the voices shouting commands weren't speaking English. They were coordinating in rapid Spanish that sounded more like military operations than law enforcement raids. "Move! Move! Secure the American!" Eduardo's men weren't fighting the breach team, they were coordinating with them. This wasn't a rescue operation. It was a staged kidnapping designed to remove me from play while maintaining Steve's cover identity. I dove behind Eduardo's desk as automatic weapons fire erupted from all directions. The cartel boss was gone, probably extracted through predetermined escape routes, while his soldiers created enough chaos to mask his departure. Steve was shouting orders in Spanish, directing the tactical team's movements with insider knowledge of their procedures. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from Maria. I answered while bullets sparked off the marble surfaces around my cover. "Frank, thank God. Sofia and I are safe, but there are men outside the house. Armed men who know our names. Maria, get Sofia and run to the Hendersons next door. Call 911 and request federal protection. Tell them Agent Castellanos is compromised and family protection is immediate priority." I could hear fear in her voice, but also confusion about why our peaceful Sunday afternoon had suddenly become dangerous. "Frank, I don't understand. Who are these men? Why are they here?" Sofia's voice in the background, asking Mommy why the bad men had guns. 8 years old, and already learning that her father's job brought violence home to innocent people. The gunfire was intensifying, but it was carefully controlled, designed to pin me down rather than kill me immediately. They wanted me alive for interrogation, probably to extract information about other DEA operations before executing me and dumping my body where it would send clear messages to surviving federal agents. I low-crawled toward the kitchen, using overturned furniture for concealment while the tactical team established perimeter control around the villa. Through the smoke, I could see Steve coordinating with the team leader, pointing toward my likely escape routes and discussing containment strategies. The kitchen's service exit led to a narrow alley behind the villa, but emerging into open ground would expose me to sniper fire from multiple angles. The basement wine cellar connected to drainage tunnels that serviced the entire hilltop neighborhood, but those passages would take time to navigate while pursuit teams coordinated surface coverage. My phone rang again. Steve's number. I answered while checking my weapons ammunition count. 6 rounds remaining. Facing at least 15 hostiles with unlimited firepower and intimate knowledge of my capabilities and training methods. Frank, you're making this harder than necessary. Eduardo's offering you $5 million in safe passage to non-extradition countries. Your family gets witness protection, new identities, comfortable lives without looking over their shoulders forever. Or I refuse, and you kill us all anyway. The offer sounded too generous for cartel standards, which meant they needed something from me that couldn't be obtained through torture and execution. Maria and Sofia are already in custody, Frank. Not cartel custody, federal custody. They're being processed through witness protection right now, based on information I provided about threats to their safety. Accept the offer, and they disappear safely. Refuse, and they disappear permanently. The implications hit me like cold water. Steve hadn't just betrayed me, he'd manipulated federal witness protection systems to gain control over my family. Maria and Sofia weren't safe with the DEA. They were prisoners in a system Steve could access and manipulate through his insider connections. What do you need from me, Steve? Information about ongoing operations? Access to DEA databases? Testimony against other agents? I was buying time while working my way toward the basement, but I also needed to understand the scope of his objectives. Names, Frank. Every DEA agent, FBI contact, local police informant, prosecutor, and federal judge involved in anti-cartel operations along the entire Mexican border. Eduardo's paying $50 million for a complete intelligence package that eliminates law enforcement threats to his business. $50 million for information that would result in the systematic murder of hundreds of American law enforcement officers and their families. Steve wasn't just betraying individual agents, he was orchestrating genocide against everyone involved in drug interdiction efforts. The basement wine cellar was darker than expected, filled with expensive bottles that represented Eduardo's wealth and taste. But behind the wine racks, I found what I was looking for: access to utility tunnels that connected multiple properties on the hillside, emergency escape routes that cartel leaders used when operations were compromised. My phone buzzed with a text message from Maria's number, but the words were wrong, too formal, not her voice. Frank, Steve explained everything. Sofia and I are safe in federal protection. Please accept Eduardo's offer so we can be together again. Steve was using my family's phones to manipulate me, probably after taking them into custody through fabricated witness protection protocols. Maria and Sofia weren't safe. They were hostages in a system Steve controlled through his federal credentials and insider access. The drainage tunnel was narrow and filled with standing water that soaked through my clothes and boots, but it led away from the villa toward the main road, where I might find transportation and communication options that weren't monitored by Steve's network. 20 minutes of crawling through concrete passages brought me to a storm drain outlet that emptied into a creek behind a shopping center. I emerged covered in filth and industrial runoff, but alive and temporarily free from immediate pursuit. My phone showed no signal, which meant Steve was jamming communications to prevent coordination with legitimate law enforcement. The shopping center's electronics store had prepaid phones that couldn't be traced through DEA monitoring systems. I bought 3 different devices and started making calls to contacts outside Steve's potential influence: FBI counterintelligence, ATF supervisors, local police chiefs who worked independent cases. Agent Diana Reeves at FBI answered on the 3rd ring, her voice cautious when I identified myself. Frank, I've been getting calls about you for the past hour. Someone claiming to be your partner reported that you'd been compromised by cartel contacts and were fleeing federal custody. Steve was already working to discredit me, using federal communication channels to paint me as the corrupt agent who'd betrayed law enforcement operations. If his version of events became official record, then my testimony about his treason would be dismissed as desperate lies from a compromised agent. Agent Reeves, I need you to understand that my partner, Agent Steve Nakamura, has been working for Russian intelligence and Mexican cartels for at least 3 years. He's systematically eliminated 12 DEA agents and is planning mass assassinations of federal law enforcement personnel. That's an extraordinary accusation, Frank. I'll need substantial evidence before involving FBI resources in internal DEA affairs. Her professional skepticism was appropriate, but it was also exactly what Steve would be counting on to maintain his operational security. My wife and daughter are in federal witness protection based on false information Steve provided. I need you to verify their actual safety and location immediately. The The silence on her end suggested she was accessing federal databases while we spoke. Frank, there's no record of Maria and Sofia Castellanos in witness protection. No applications, no processing orders, no safe house assignments. If they're in federal custody, it's not through official channels. The words hit me like physical blows. Steve had lied about everything. Maria and Sofia weren't in witness protection. They were missing entirely. Kidnapped, murdered, or held in cartel facilities, while Steve used false promises to manipulate my cooperation with intelligence demands. Agent Reeves, I need immediate federal protection and tactical support. Steve's network extends into DEA command structure, possibly FBI as well. Normal communication channels are compromised. A black SUV was pulling into the shopping center parking lot, moving with the deliberate precision of professional surveillance. Frank, I'm dispatching tactical units to your location, but I need you to understand that multiple federal agencies have been alerted about your possible defection. If you're lying about any of this, if you're actually compromised, those tactical units will be coming to arrest you, not rescue you. The SUV's occupants were scanning the area systematically, probably using thermal imaging and communication intercepts to track my location. I had maybe 5 minutes before they established perimeter control around the shopping center and began systematic building-by-building searches. Agent Reeves, the SUV surveillance team arriving at my location right now? They're not federal agents. They're cartel operatives using equipment provided by corrupt law enforcement contacts. Do not trust any operational intelligence coming through DEA channels regarding my status. I destroyed the phone and moved toward the shopping center's service areas, looking for additional escape routes while the SUV team established surveillance positions. Through the electronics store's front windows, I could see 2 figures in tactical gear coordinating with someone on radio communications. The service tunnel behind the shopping center connected to a municipal water treatment facility where I could access city communication systems and emergency services without using compromised federal channels. But reaching that facility required crossing open ground under potential sniper observation. That's when I heard the explosion. A fireball erupted from the direction of my neighborhood, visible even from 3 miles away. The blast was too large for accidental causes, too precisely timed to be coincidental. Steve's team had just eliminated my home and everything in it. My phone rang. Steve's voice was calm, professional, completely without remorse. Frank, Maria, and Sofia were in the house when it exploded. Natural gas leak caused by faulty infrastructure. Tragic accident that kills federal agent families sometimes when maintenance is deferred for budget reasons. The words didn't register immediately. My mind rejected information too horrific to process, while my body continued functioning on tactical training and survival instinct. Maria and Sofia were dead, murdered by my partner to eliminate leverage and send clear messages about consequences of resistance. You killed them. The words came out flat, emotionless, while rage built in my chest like pressure behind a dam that was about to break. You murdered my wife and daughter. I eliminated complications that were interfering with necessary intelligence operations. Maria was asking too many questions about your work schedule. Sofia was old enough to remember faces and conversations that could compromise operational security later. Steve's clinical detachment while describing the murder of my family revealed the depth of his programming and training. This wasn't corruption or greed. It was systematic elimination of human obstacles to foreign intelligence objectives, conducted without emotional attachment or moral consideration. Frank, the $5 million offer stands. You can disappear to countries that don't extradite to the United States, or you can join Maria and Sofia through similar infrastructure accidents. Your choice, but the decision needs to be made in the next 6 hours. I hung up and smashed the phone against concrete. Maria's laugh, Sofia's bedtime stories, 8 years of marriage and fatherhood reduced to collateral damage in a war I hadn't known I was fighting. The rage was beyond anger, beyond hatred, entering territory where justice and vengeance became indistinguishable concepts. The water treatment facility's communication center provided access to secure federal channels that bypassed DEA monitoring systems. I contacted FBI headquarters directly, requesting immediate connection to counterintelligence supervisors who could coordinate multi-agency response to foreign espionage operations. Deputy Director Catherine Walsh answered after 15 minutes of authentication procedures designed to verify my identity and security clearance. Her voice carried authority accumulated through decades of hunting foreign spies operating in American institutions. Agent Castellanos, we've been monitoring unusual activity in DEA operations along the Mexican border for 18 months. Your partner, Agent Nakamura, has been flagged for possible compromise, but we needed additional evidence before moving against a federal agent with his credentials and access. How much additional evidence do you need? He's murdered my family, eliminated 12 DEA agents, and is coordinating intelligence sales worth $50 million to eliminate hundreds of federal law enforcement officers. The words felt like swallowing broken glass. Enough evidence to arrest him tonight and dismantle his entire network. Your testimony, combined with intelligence we've gathered independently, provides sufficient grounds for federal warrants against everyone involved in his operation. Her tone shifted from official to personal. Agent Castellanos, I'm authorizing immediate tactical support for recovery of your family and elimination of hostile forces operating against American law enforcement. This is no longer undercover investigation. This is active warfare against foreign intelligence operations on American soil. The tactical team that extracted me from the water treatment facility was FBI hostage rescue team, professionals trained for exactly this kind of operation. But they were also delivering news that confirmed my worst fears about Maria and Sophia's fate. Agent Castellanos, the explosion at your residence was professionally executed using military-grade explosives. Forensic evidence confirms 2 adult victims, but we found no trace of child remains. Your daughter may still be alive. Agent Rebecca Torres, HRT team leader, spoke with careful precision. Sophia was alive. Somewhere in Steve's network, my 8-year-old daughter was being held as leverage or insurance against my cooperation with federal authorities. The rage in my chest transformed into something colder, more focused, infinitely more dangerous to everyone responsible for destroying my family. Where is she? The question came out quiet, controlled, while tactical teams coordinated surveillance and assault preparations around me. Where is Steve holding my daughter? Agent Torres consulted intelligence reports from multiple agencies working the case. Communication intercepts suggest she's being held at a facility in Guadalajara, Mexico. Industrial compound owned by Eduardo Vasquez. Heavily defended, approximately 30 armed guards with military equipment. Agent Castellanos. FBI policy prohibits direct assault operations in foreign countries without host nation approval. We'll need to coordinate with Mexican federal police and military units to conduct rescue operations on their territory. The bureaucratic limitations were exactly what Steve would be counting on to maintain operational security. Then we do it unofficially, I replied. Steve murdered my wife and kidnapped my daughter as part of foreign intelligence operations against American law enforcement. This isn't law enforcement anymore. This is war, and I'm going to get her back. The FBI couldn't officially support cross-border military operations, but Agent Torres quietly provided intelligence packages, tactical equipment, and coordination with military contractors who specialized in exactly these kinds of missions. Deniable operations that protected American interests while maintaining official government plausibility. 48 hours later, I was crossing into Mexico with a team of former Special Forces operators who worked freelance contracts for federal agencies. 6 professionals who understood that sometimes protecting American citizens required methods that weren't covered in official manuals. The compound in Guadalajara was fortress-like, surrounded by concrete walls topped with razor wire and monitored by sophisticated surveillance systems. But intelligence provided by FBI indicated structural vulnerabilities that could be exploited by operators with appropriate training and equipment. Your partner Steve is inside the compound, team leader Marcus Kane informed me while we conducted final reconnaissance. Along with Eduardo Vasquez and approximately 25 cartel soldiers. Your daughter is being held in the main residence, 2nd floor, northwest corner room. Sophia was 300 yards away, probably terrified, possibly injured, definitely traumatized by everything she'd experienced since her mother's murder. Getting her out safely while eliminating everyone responsible for destroying my family required precision, timing, and willingness to kill anyone who stood between us. The assault began at 3 a.m. when perimeter guards were most likely to be tired and inattentive. Silenced weapons eliminated sentries while electronic warfare systems disabled surveillance cameras and communication equipment. The compound's defenders never knew they were under attack until explosions breached the main residence. I found Sophia in exactly the location intelligence had indicated, locked in a room that looked more like a prison cell than guest accommodations. She was alive, physically unharmed, but her eyes held terror that would probably last for years, regardless of successful rescue operations. "Daddy!" She ran into my arms while gunfire echoed through the building around us. "The bad men said you were never coming back. They said Mommy went to heaven and you forgot about me." Psychological warfare designed to break her will and eliminate hope that might motivate resistance to future exploitation. Steve's operation wasn't just about intelligence gathering, it was about systematic destruction of families who posed threats to criminal organizations he protected. "I'm here now, baby. Daddy's going to take you home, and the bad men can't hurt you anymore." The promises felt hollow while bullets sparked off walls around us, but they were the only comfort I could offer while fighting our way toward extraction points. Steve was waiting in the compound's main courtyard, flanked by Eduardo's remaining soldiers and several figures I didn't recognize. Professional killers with military bearing who probably represented the Russian intelligence contacts he'd mentioned during our last conversation. "Frank, you brought friends to a family reunion. How thoughtful." Steve's weapon was trained on Sophia, while his backup maintained fields of fire that would eliminate my entire team if anyone made aggressive movements. "Let her go, Steve. Your fight is with me, not with an 8-year-old girl who's never done anything to threaten your operation." I kept my own weapon ready while calculating angles and distances that might create opportunities to protect Sophia. "Sophia is valuable insurance, Frank. Russian intelligence wants you alive for interrogation about other DEA operations, and she's the leverage that ensures your cooperation. Eduardo gets his 50 million, Moscow gets their intelligence, and everyone wins except American law enforcement." The courtyard was surrounded by tactical positions that provided my team with overlapping fields of fire against Steve's forces. But any shooting would put Sophia at risk, which meant negotiation was the only option until better tactical opportunities developed. What do you want from me, Steve? Names of other agents? Access to DEA databases? Testimony that discredits American drug enforcement efforts? I was buying time while my team maneuvered into positions that might allow clean shots at hostiles without endangering Sophia. Everything, Frank. Every operation you've been involved with, every agent you've worked alongside, every prosecutor and judge who's handled cartel cases. Complete intelligence package that eliminates law enforcement threats to our business operations. One of the Russian operatives stepped forward, speaking accented English with cold precision. Agent Castellanos, your government has been interfering with legitimate business relationships between sovereign nations and private organizations. This interference costs our clients billions of dollars annually. Your cooperation will help restore profitable equilibrium while eliminating individuals who create unnecessary complications for international commerce. Your daughter's safety depends entirely on the completeness and accuracy of information you provide. The rationalization was sophisticated propaganda designed to justify systematic murder of American law enforcement personnel as economic necessity rather than treason and terrorism. But the underlying objectives remained unchanged: eliminate threats to criminal operations through mass assassination disguised as business optimization. Sophia was crying quietly, probably understanding more about the situation than any child should have to comprehend. 8 years old, and watching her father negotiate with the people who'd murdered her mother and kidnapped her for leverage in intelligence operations. That's when the compound's perimeter exploded in synchronized detonations that shook the ground beneath our feet. Mexican military units were breaching the outer walls with armored vehicles and heavy weapons support, coordinating with American tactical teams to eliminate hostile forces. The courtyard became a battlefield, as cartel soldiers and Russian operatives engaged federal forces equipped with superior firepower and tactical coordination. Steve grabbed Sophia and used her as a human shield while retreating toward the compound's main building. Frank, follow me or she dies right now. Steve's desperation was finally showing through his professional detachment as his entire operation collapsed around him. The compound was surrounded, his escape routes were compromised, and his only remaining leverage was my daughter's life. I pursued him through the building while firefights raged in every direction. Mexican federal police were clearing rooms systematically, arresting surviving cartel members and eliminating those who continued resistance. The Russian operatives were fighting with military precision, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. Steve reached the building's roof with Sophia, probably planning helicopter extraction or final negotiation with federal forces that might allow his escape in exchange for her release. But the rooftop was already covered by sniper teams from multiple agencies, all with clear shots at anyone who appeared with hostile intentions. Steve, this is over, I called as I climbed toward the roof access. The compound is secure, your people are dead or captured, and there's nowhere left to run. Let Sophia go, and maybe you live long enough to see trial. Frank, you still don't understand what you've destroyed tonight. This operation prevented World War III by managing conflicts between American law enforcement and international business interests. Without controlled management, those conflicts escalate into military interventions. Steve's voice carried genuine conviction that his treason had been necessary to prevent larger catastrophes. The rationalization was probably part of his psychological programming, allowing him to commit mass murder while believing he was serving greater good through necessary sacrifices. The rooftop was small, surrounded by sniper positions, with no cover except mechanical equipment that wouldn't stop high-powered rifle rounds. Steve held Sophia against his chest, using her small body to shield his vital organs from precision fire. Daddy, I'm scared, Sophia whispered, her voice carrying across the rooftop, despite the helicopter noise above us. Federal aircraft were maintaining overwatch while ground teams secured the compound and processed prisoners. I know, baby. Just close your eyes and count to 10. When you open them, this will all be over and we'll go home. The promise felt impossible while Steve held a gun to her head, but hope was the only weapon I had against despair. Steve, you've lost everything tonight. Your network is destroyed, your Russian contacts are dead, Eduardo is in federal custody. The only thing you control now is whether Sophia lives or dies. Make the right choice. Steve's expression cycled through emotions I'd never seen during our partnership. Fear, rage, desperation, something that might have been regret. Frank, there are things about this operation you'll never understand. Things about your family that would change everything if you knew the truth. What truth, Steve? What could possibly justify murdering my wife and terrorizing my daughter? I kept my weapon trained on him while looking for opportunities to take clean shots that wouldn't endanger Sophia. Maria wasn't just your wife, Frank. She was Russian intelligence, just like me. Your marriage was arranged surveillance designed to monitor your DEA activities and identify other agents who might threaten our operations. Sophia isn't just your daughter. She's a Russian intelligence asset with training that started before her 3rd birthday. The words hit me like physical blows, undermining everything I thought I understood about my personal life and family relationships. 8 years of marriage based on espionage and manipulation. Fatherhood that was cover for intelligence operations against American law enforcement. You're lying. But even as I said it, details from our marriage started making different sense. Maria's unusual interest in my work schedule, her sophisticated knowledge of law enforcement procedures, Sophia's precocious language skills, and unusual ability to remember faces and conversations. Ask Sophia about the games Mommy taught her, Frank. Ask her about the special words and the picture books with faces she was supposed to remember. Ask her why she can speak Russian when you never taught her, and Maria claimed she didn't know the language. Sophia looked up at me with confusion and fear in her 8-year-old eyes. Daddy, I don't want to play the memory games anymore. The bad men make me scared when they ask about the faces in Mommy's books. The truth was worse than Steve's betrayal, worse than Maria's murder, worse than everything I'd endured over the past week. My entire personal life had been fabricated intelligence operation designed to monitor and manipulate my federal law enforcement activities. But Sophia was still my daughter, regardless of the circumstances surrounding her birth and early training. She was an innocent victim of adult conspiracies, just like the other children Steve's network had exploited for intelligence and leverage purposes. Steve, even if everything you're saying is true, Sophia is 8 years old. She's not responsible for adult decisions about espionage and treason. Let her go. The sniper teams were waiting for clear shots, but Steve's positioning made precision fire impossible without risking Sophia's life. Frank, Sophia has been programmed since infancy to gather intelligence about American law enforcement families. She's not just your daughter, she's a foreign intelligence asset who poses ongoing security risks to every federal agent she encounters. But she's also the only family you have left, and I'm willing to trade her life for information about other Russian sleeper operations in American law enforcement. Names, locations, operational details that would help us eliminate threats you don't even know exist. The choice was impossible. Sacrifice my daughter to protect other law enforcement families, or protect her while allowing foreign intelligence operations to continue murdering American agents. Either decision would result in innocent people dying because of choices I made on this rooftop. 10 seconds, Frank. Give me the names of other DEA agents working undercover operations, or Sophia dies and you spend the rest of your life knowing you could have saved her. Steve's finger was tightening on the trigger while Sophia looked at me with trust that broke my heart. That's when she moved. Sophia bit Steve's hand hard enough to draw blood, causing him to jerk the weapon away from her head for just long enough. The sniper's shot took him in the center of the forehead, dropping him instantly while Sophia tumbled away from his falling body. I caught her before she hit the concrete, holding her against my chest while she cried with relief and terror. It's over, baby. The bad men can't hurt you anymore. Daddy's got you now, and we're going home. But home was gone. Maria was dead, our house was destroyed, and everything I'd believed about my family had been lies constructed by foreign intelligence services. Sophia and I were both victims of espionage operations that had manipulated our entire lives for purposes we'd never fully understand. The debriefing process took 6 months and involved multiple federal agencies trying to understand the scope of Russian penetration into American law enforcement. Sophia received specialized counseling to help her process childhood trauma while experts determined the extent of her intelligence training and programming. The investigation revealed 12 other Russian sleeper families embedded in American law enforcement communities, including agents in FBI, ATF, DEA, and local police departments across 6 states. Steve's network had been systematically gathering intelligence about American drug interdiction efforts while eliminating agents who posed threats to their operations. Sophia and I entered witness protection with new identities and relocated to a small town where federal agents weren't targets for foreign intelligence services. She started school under her new name, began making friends who didn't know anything about espionage or international conspiracies, slowly learned to be a normal child instead of an intelligence asset. But sometimes at night, she still asked questions about the games Mommy had taught her, and why the bad men had been so interested in the faces she'd memorized from picture books that looked like family photo albums, but were actually surveillance training materials. I never told her the complete truth about Maria's identity or her own early training. Some secrets are too heavy for children to carry, even children who've survived experiences that most adults couldn't endure. She deserved to grow up believing in love and family, even if those concepts had been compromised by forces beyond our control. The letter arrived on Sophia's 16th birthday, forwarded through federal channels with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, Steve standing with 5 other men who looked exactly like him, all wearing identical uniforms I didn't recognize. On the back, someone had written in Russian, "The others are still active, Frank. The war has just begun."